Your anger is not real. That rage you feel when someone disrespects you, that fury that burns in your chest when you're treated unfairly, that explosive emotion that feels so justified and so right, it's all a lie you've been telling yourself. You think you're angry because of what they did to you, but the truth is, you're angry because you've never learned how to be anything else. You've been conditioned to hand over your emotional remote control to anyone who knows which buttons to press. And you call this normal human behavior. But what if I told you that the most successful, most peaceful, most powerful people on earth have discovered something you haven't? They've learned that anger is optional. Reactions are choices. And emotional slavery is something you do to yourself. You are living in emotional slavery and you don't even know it. Every single day, you hand over the remote control of your life to complete strangers, to family members, to co-workers, to anyone who knows exactly which buttons to push to make you lose your mind. You wake up in the morning thinking you're in control, but by noon, someone has hijacked your emotions, stolen your peace, and left you feeling like a victim of circumstances you never chose. But what if I told you that this entire system is built on a lie? What if I told you that no human being on this planet has the power to make you angry unless you give them that power? What if I told you that the moment you understand this principle, you will never again be at the mercy of other people's behavior, attitudes, or words? There was a man named Robert, a successful businessman who built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing. He had everything going for him until one day, during a board meeting, one of his partners made a comment that triggered something deep inside him. Robert exploded. He said things he couldn't take back, made decisions in anger that destroyed relationships, and within 6 months his empire crumbled. 20 years of hard work destroyed in 20 minutes of uncontrolled emotion. When I met Robert, he said something that changed my perspective forever. I didn't lose my business to market forces or competition. I lost it to my own inability to control my reactions. This is the reality for millions of people. They are not failing because they lack talent, opportunity, or resources. They are failing because they have never learned the most fundamental principle of human existence. You are not responsible for what happens to you, but you are completely responsible for how you respond to what happens to you. Every emotion you feel is a choice you make. Every reaction you have is a decision you control. The person who cuts you off in traffic doesn't make you angry. The colleague who takes credit for your work doesn't make you frustrated. The family member who criticizes you doesn't make you hurt. You choose anger. You choose frustration. You choose hurt. And because you choose it, you can also choose something different. But here's what most people don't understand. Your emotional responses are not just random reactions. They are habits you have developed over years of practice. Every time someone does something and you react the same way, you are strengthening that emotional pathway in your brain. You are training yourself to be a victim of other people's behavior. You are literally programming yourself for emotional slavery. The first step to freedom is understanding that there is always a space between what happens to you and how you respond. In that space lies your power. In that space lies your freedom. In that space lies your ability to choose who you want to be, regardless of what others choose to do. Most people live their entire lives without ever recognizing this space exists. They go from stimulus to response so quickly that they believe the response is automatic. Someone says something offensive and immediately they are offended. Someone acts rudely and immediately they are angry. Someone disappoints them and immediately they are hurt. They have trained themselves to be emotional robots, programmed to react in predictable ways to predictable triggers. But successful people Peaceful people, powerful people have learned to expand that space. They have trained themselves to pause, to think, to choose their response based on who they want to be, not based on what others are doing. They understand that their emotional state is their responsibility and their power. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens. People stop having power over you. Their words become just sounds. Their actions become just movements. Their opinions become just thoughts that have nothing to do with your reality. You become emotionally independent. You become free. Now, let me tell you about Marcus, a taxi driver in New York City. Every day he deals with hundreds of people, many of them stressed, angry, and rude. Other drivers in his company constantly complain about difficult passengers, road rage, and the stress of dealing with the public. But Marcus never seems bothered. His colleagues ask him his secret. Marcus said, when someone gets in my car angry, I don't take their anger as mine. When someone is rude to me, I don't accept their rudeness as a reflection of my worth. When someone tries to make me upset, I remember that their behavior is about them, not about me. I am not a garbage can for other people's emotions. I am not a dumping ground for other people's bad days. I choose peace and I protect that choice. Marcus understood something profound. Other people's behavior is information about them, not instructions for you. When someone is angry with you, they are telling you something about their internal state, their frustrations, their fears, their insecurities. They are not giving you a command to feel a certain way. They are not dictating your emotional response. They are simply revealing what is happening inside them. This is why two people can experience the exact same situation and have completely different responses. One person gets cut off in traffic and spends the next hour angry, while another person gets cut off and immediately forgets about it. One person receives criticism and becomes defensive and hurt, while another person receives the same criticism and uses it to improve. The difference is not in what happened to them. The difference is in how they interpreted what happened and what they chose to do with that interpretation. Your emotional responses are based on the meaning you assign to events, not the events themselves. And you have complete control over the meanings you assign. When someone is rude to you, you can choose to interpret it as a personal attack, or you can choose to interpret it as that person having a difficult day. When someone criticizes you, you can choose to interpret it as a judgment of your worth, or you can choose to interpret it as information that might help you grow. The meanings you assign determine your emotional responses. Change the meanings and you change your emotions. Master the meanings and you master your emotional life. But here's where this gets even more interesting. When you stop reacting emotionally to other people's behavior, something strange happens. They stop behaving badly around you. When you no longer give people the emotional reaction they are looking for, they lose interest in pushing your buttons. When you remain calm in the face of their chaos, they either calm down themselves or they go find someone else to disturb. There's a principle at work here that most people never recognize. You attract what you are, not what you want. If you are easily angered, you will attract situations and people that trigger your anger. If you are easily hurt, you will attract situations and people that hurt you. If you are easily frustrated, you will attract situations and people that frustrate you. Sarah was a high school teacher who constantly struggled with difficult students. Every day, she felt like she was in a battle trying to control kids who seemed determined to disrupt her class. She complained about their disrespect, their laziness, their bad attitudes. She was exhausted, angry, and ready to quit. Then something happened that changed everything. Sarah realized that she was bringing her own frustration and anger into the classroom every day. She was expecting problems, looking for disrespect, and reacting emotionally to every small disruption. Her energy was creating the very environment she was complaining about. Sarah decided to try something different. Instead of walking into class expecting problems, she walked in expecting the best from her students. Instead of reacting to disruptions with anger, she responded with calm curiosity. Instead of taking their behavior personally, she treated it as information about what they needed. Within 2 weeks, her classroom completely transformed. The same students who had been problems became engaged. The same kids who had been disrespectful became respectful. Nothing changed except Sarah's internal state. But that change created a ripple effect that transformed her entire environment. This is the power of understanding that your internal state creates your external experience. When you are at peace internally, you create peaceful environments. When you are confident internally, you attract respectful treatment. When you are secure internally, you don't attract people who try to make you insecure. Most people have this backwards. They think that if their external environment changes, they will feel different internally. They think that if people treat them better, they will feel better about themselves. They think that if circumstances improve, they will be happier. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Your internal state determines your external experience. Change what's happening inside you, and you change what happens around you. This means that if you want people to stop bothering you, you need to stop being bothered. If you want people to stop making you angry, you need to stop being angry. If you want people to treat you with respect, you need to respect yourself so completely that disrespect cannot penetrate your consciousness. But how do you actually do this? How do you train yourself to stop reacting emotionally to other people's behavior? How do you develop this kind of internal strength and peace? The first step is awareness. You need to start noticing your emotional reactions before they take control of you. You need to catch yourself in that space between stimulus and response. When someone does something that normally triggers you, pause, take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I choosing to feel right now? What meaning am I assigning to this situation? How do I want to respond? The second step is separation. You need to learn to separate facts from interpretations. When someone is rude to you, the fact is that they said certain words or did certain actions. Your interpretation is that they were trying to hurt you, disrespect you, or make you feel bad. The fact is neutral. The interpretation is where your emotional reaction comes from. Focus on facts, not interpretations. The third step is choice. Once you recognize that you are choosing your emotional response, you can choose a different one. Instead of choosing anger, choose curiosity. Instead of choosing hurt, choose compassion. Instead of choosing frustration, choose understanding. Every emotion is available to you at every moment. You are not limited to automatic reactions. Let me tell you about David, a CEO who built one of the most successful companies in his industry. David had a reputation for never losing his temper, never getting rattled by criticism, and never taking business setbacks personally. His competitors tried to provoke him, the media tried to tear him down, and his own board members sometimes challenged his decisions aggressively. But David never reacted emotionally. When asked about his secret, David said, "I realized early in my career that emotional reactions are expensive. Every time I got angry, it cost me money. Every time I got hurt by criticism, it cost me opportunities. Every time I took things personally, it cost me relationships. I decided that my success was more important than my ego. So I trained myself to respond instead of react." David understood that emotional mastery is not about suppressing emotions. It's about choosing your emotions consciously instead of letting them choose you unconsciously. It's about responding from your higher self instead of reacting from your triggered self. When you master this principle, your entire life changes. Relationships that used to be sources of stress become sources of joy. Work situations that used to frustrate you become opportunities to demonstrate your strength. Family dynamics that used to trigger you become chances to model emotional maturity. You stop being a victim of other people's moods, attitudes, and behaviors. You stop giving your power away to anyone who knows how to push your buttons. You stop letting other people determine your emotional state, your peace of mind, or your sense of self-worth. Instead, you become the source of your own peace. You become the creator of your own emotional environment. You become the master of your own internal world. And when you master your internal world, your external world reflects that mastery. People start treating you differently because you are different. Situations that used to disturb you no longer have that power. Circumstances that used to steal your peace bounce off your consciousness like rain off a roof. You become unshakable. Not because nothing difficult happens to you, but because you have trained yourself to remain centered regardless of what happens around you. This is not about becoming emotionless or disconnected. This is about becoming emotionally intelligent and emotionally independent. This is about choosing your responses consciously instead of reacting unconsciously. This is about taking back control of the one thing that is truly yours, your internal state. When you live this way, you discover something amazing. Life becomes easier, not because your circumstances change, but because you change. Relationships become more peaceful, not because people behave better, but because you respond better. Work becomes more enjoyable, not because the challenges disappear, but because you handle challenges with greater wisdom and calm. You realize that you have been carrying around unnecessary emotional baggage for years. You have been reacting to things that don't deserve your energy. You have been giving your power to people who don't deserve your attention. You have been letting other people's problems become your problems. But now you know better. Now you understand that your emotions are your choice. Your reactions are your responsibility. And your peace is your power. No one can take these things from you unless you give them away. And you never have to give them away again. From this moment forward, you can choose to live above the storm. You can choose to remain calm in chaos, peaceful in pressure, and centered in conflict. You can choose to be emotionally free, emotionally independent, and emotionally powerful. This is your birthright. This is your power. This is your choice. The question is not whether you can do this. The question is whether you will do this. Will you take back control of your emotional life? Will you stop being a victim of other people's behavior? Will you choose to be free? The answer to these questions will determine the quality of every day you have left on this earth. Choose wisely. Choose powerfully. Choose freedom. But let me take you deeper into this transformation, because understanding the principle is only the beginning. Living the principle is where your real power lies. You see, most people know they shouldn't let others control their emotions, but they keep falling into the same traps over and over again. They make the same mistakes, react the same ways, and wonder why their lives never change. The difference between knowing and living this principle comes down to one word: practice. You don't develop emotional mastery by reading about it or thinking about it. You develop it by practicing it in real situations with real people who really know how to push your buttons. Think about it this way. If you wanted to become physically strong, you wouldn't just read books about exercise. You would go to the gym and lift weights. The heavier the weights, the stronger you become. If you wanted to become a skilled musician, you wouldn't just study music theory. You would practice your instrument every day, starting with simple songs and gradually working up to more complex pieces. Emotional mastery works the same way. Every difficult person in your life is like a weight in your emotional gym. Every challenging situation is like a complex piece of music that teaches you to play with greater skill. Every moment when someone tries to trigger you is an opportunity to practice your new response patterns. But here's what most people do wrong. They avoid the practice. They try to stay away from difficult people. They try to eliminate challenging situations from their lives. They think that emotional peace means living in a bubble where nothing ever bothers them. This is like trying to become physically strong by avoiding the gym, or trying to become a good musician by never practicing difficult songs. Real emotional strength comes from being able to maintain your peace in the middle of chaos. Real emotional mastery comes from staying centered when everyone around you is losing their minds. Real emotional freedom comes from choosing your response even when every fiber of your being wants to react automatically. I once knew a woman named Patricia who worked in customer service for a major corporation. Every day she dealt with angry customers, frustrated clients, and demanding supervisors. For years she came home exhausted, stressed, and emotionally drained. She dreaded going to work because she knew she would face hours of negativity, complaints, and verbal abuse. Patricia tried everything she could think of to make her job easier. She requested transfers to different departments. She applied for jobs at other companies. She even considered quitting and finding a completely different career. But nothing changed because Patricia was trying to change her circumstances instead of changing herself. Then Patricia learned about emotional responsibility. She realized that she had been allowing every angry customer to dump their frustration into her emotional system. She had been taking personal responsibility for other people's problems. She had been trying to make everyone happy instead of maintaining her own emotional boundaries. Patricia decided to conduct an experiment. For 30 days, she would practice responding instead of reacting to difficult customers. When someone yelled at her, she would remain calm and focus on solving their problem rather than defending herself. When someone blamed her for things beyond her control, she would acknowledge their frustration without taking ownership of their emotions. When someone tried to make her feel guilty or inadequate, she would remember that their words were information about them, not instructions for her. The results were remarkable. Not only did Patricia's work days become more pleasant, but her customers started responding differently to her. When she stopped matching their energy with defensive reactions, many of them calmed down and became more reasonable. When she stopped taking their problems personally, she became more effective at actually solving those problems. When she maintained her emotional boundaries, people started respecting those boundaries. But the most surprising change was what happened to Patricia outside of work. The emotional strength she developed at her job started affecting every other area of her life. She stopped overreacting to her teenager's attitude. She stopped getting defensive when her husband offered suggestions. She stopped feeling hurt when her mother made critical comments. The skills she practiced in one environment automatically transferred to every other environment. This is the multiplying effect of emotional mastery. When you learn to control your reactions in one area of your life, that strength spreads to every other area. When you develop emotional boundaries with one type of person, you automatically have those boundaries with all people. When you practice choosing your responses in challenging situations. But here's the key. You have to start somewhere, and you have to start now. You can't wait until you feel ready. You can't wait until the perfect opportunity presents itself. You can't wait until people start treating you better. You have to begin practicing emotional mastery with the people and situations that are in your life right now. The person who annoys you most at work, that's your training partner. The family member who always knows how to push your buttons, that's your practice opportunity. The situation that typically makes you lose your cool, that's your chance to develop a new response pattern. Every single interaction you have is either strengthening your old emotional habits or building new ones. Every moment when you choose to react automatically, you are reinforcing patterns that keep you emotionally enslaved. Every moment when you pause and choose your response consciously, you are building the emotional muscles that will set you free. This is not about perfection. You will still have moments when you react instead of respond. You will still have days when you let someone else's behavior affect your peace. You will still have situations where you forget everything you know and fall back into old patterns. This is normal. This is part of the process. This is how you learn. The difference is that now you will catch yourself faster. Instead of staying angry for hours or days, you will notice your reaction and make a different choice. Instead of blaming other people for your emotional state, you will take responsibility and adjust your response. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances, you will remember that you have the power to choose who you want to be, regardless of what others choose to do. And gradually over time, your new responses will become as automatic as your old reactions used to be. Staying calm will become more natural than getting upset. Choosing peace will become easier than choosing conflict. Maintaining your emotional boundaries will become second nature instead of a conscious effort. When you reach this level of emotional mastery, you will look back on your old patterns with amazement. You will wonder how you ever let other people have so much control over your internal state. You will be grateful for every difficult person who gave you the opportunity to practice becoming stronger. You will realize that your greatest challenges were actually your greatest teachers. This is the life that is available to you. This is the freedom that is possible for you. This is the peace that can be yours. Not someday in the future when your circumstances change, but right now, today, in the middle of whatever situation you are facing. Your emotional freedom starts with your next choice. Your peace begins with your next response. Your mastery develops with your next interaction. The power is in your hands. The choice is yours to make. The freedom is yours to claim. But understand this, the moment you make this commitment to emotional mastery, you will be tested. Life has a way of sending you exactly the situations you need to prove to yourself that you have really changed. The universe will present you with the same types of people and circumstances that used to trigger you, not to punish you, but to confirm your growth. When this happens, don't be discouraged. Don't think you're failing or going backwards. This is actually evidence that you are moving forward. These tests are opportunities to demonstrate your new level of emotional strength. They are chances to prove to yourself that you are no longer the person who could be easily shaken by other people's behavior. Remember, every master was once a beginner. Every expert was once completely inexperienced. Every person who now lives with unshakable peace once struggled with the same emotional reactions you are working to overcome. The difference between those who achieve mastery and those who remain stuck is not talent, luck, or special circumstances. You have everything you need within you right now to become emotionally free. You have the awareness to recognize your patterns. You have the power to choose different responses. You have the opportunity to practice new behaviors every single day. Most importantly, you have the potential to become someone who can maintain peace regardless of what anyone else chooses to do. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for other people to change. Your time is now. Your moment is here. Your freedom begins today.